participated in the subcommittee hearing, and I have some concerns that NNSA does not have a full picture of the effort to produce 80 pits a year at both Los Alamos and Savannah River, and which leads me to the question, does NNSA have an integrated schedule of milestones and costs for achieving this? And if we do, I'd very much like to see it.
Thank you, Chairman Reed. I think as we've talked before, we have a schedule for each facility that's quite complete. We are in the process of integrating those schedules so that we have a master schedule for the entire plutonium project, including all the peripheral things like security that goes with that, and we're committed to provide you that this year.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, one of the aspects of this that is complicated is that if something happens in one location, it would obviously affect the other. This is not just structural, or it's also personnel, and getting ahead of that would be very important, not only for you, but for us. So thank you. Secretary Granholm, on April 12th, the administrator wrote to this committee that it had an unfunded shortfall of $250 million for the converting the mixed oxide fuel plant at the Savannah River site for production. Can you tell the committee what this shortfall consists of and whether the Nuclear Weapons Council has validated this shortfall as they committed to do so at the May 11th Strategic Forces Subcommittee hearing?
The unfunded, the $500 million that is being requested through the letter that Jill Ruby sent is to really fulfill what this committee would like to see happen, I believe, many on this committee, which is to accelerate to the extent we can the production of hits. We won't be able to get to the 2030 goal, we know that. But what this letter does is acknowledge that there are some long lead items like glove boxes, et cetera, that take time, that we know we're going to need, that we can now begin to procure. With supply chain crunches, et cetera, we believe that we would be in a better position to be able to purchase those now so that when we get to the point where the facility is complete, and of course, as you know, we're in the middle of a design of that redesign, and it's about 90% complete, that we will be able to get people into the building and begin to deal with the plutonium pit issue right away. So that's what the letter really intends to do, is to accelerate to the extent we can, even though it won't get us to the 2030.
Well, Madam Secretary, that's a very good explanation of the letter. It's right accurately, but a few days later, the Nuclear Weapons Council issued a letter indicating that they did not agree with the money. That's my understanding. And what is the position of the Nuclear Weapons Council is essentially the question.
Yeah, and I'll let Undersecretary Ruby speak to this, but it's my understanding the Nuclear Weapons Council will be supportive of that, or is supportive of that.
Chairman Reed, we are meeting tomorrow as a Nuclear Weapons Council to discuss this budget request. As you heard in the hearing last week, the members of the Nuclear Weapons Council are supportive of this need to bring money up to do equipment pre-buy so that we can make sure we can construct SRPPF as quickly as possible. You will hear from the Nuclear Weapons Council soon.
Thank you very much. We would appreciate that, Administrator Ruby. Madam Secretary, you pointed out how your environmental team has done an extraordinary job over the years. There's still, as I mentioned, the Hannaford site and other sites. But at Hannaford, you're making progress on the low-level radioactive waste, but have you started planning for the high-activity waste in these tanks?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the budget supports the beginning of the effort on the high-level waste. We also note that this committee had asked for an assessment of alternatives as well. Mm-hmm. That study is being undertaken right now in parallel with the National Academy's study, both of which should be complete before the fall, so that we will have an assessment of what the other pieces are, even as we know that we will still be treating some of that high-level waste on site perhaps to move to vitrification as well.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Senator Inhofe, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.